Welcome back to F1 Burnouts. I'm your host, and today is gonna be fun. Picture this, the FIA hands 10 Formula One teams a brand new rulebook. Same rules, same pages, same words. And what do these teams do? They come back with 10 completely different looking cars. I'm not exaggerating. One team flipped their rear wing upside down, another showed up to testing with an entirely different car than the one they launched. And Adrian Newey, a man who at 66 still draws cars by hand, designed something so radical that a rival driver stopped what he was doing and called it spectacular. This is the 2026 Aero arms race, and it is absolute chaos, the beautiful kind. Now, before we get into the juicy drama, I need to give you just enough background so the rest of this episode hits properly. The 2026 rules basically tore up the aerodynamic playbook. The big underground tunnels that suck the car to the track, gone. DRS, gone. Instead, the wings themselves move now, front and rear. On a straight, the driver flattens the wings, imagine opening a Venetian blind, and the car slices through the air with way less resistance. In the corners, the wings snap back to their normal position for grip. And here's the key difference from DRS. Every driver gets this. Every straight, every lap. You don't need to be chasing someone. It's baked into the car. So now every team has to design a car that works brilliantly in two completely different shapes. That's the puzzle. And how each team solves it, that's where the fun begins.
You know what this reminds me of? The early 2000s, back when every race weekend you'd see a new nose shape, a new wing concept, some mad bargeboard solution that only one team tried. Then regulations got tighter and tighter, and the cars started looking like clones. By mid-2022, the ground effect cars were basically variations on the same theme. Riveting stuff aerodynamically. But 2026, we have teams that can't even agree on which way the rear wing should open. We have suspension philosophies going in 4 different directions. We have sidepods ranging from practically invisible to wide enough to land a small aircraft on. This is the kind of engineering diversity that makes F1 fans like us lose sleep reading technical articles at 2 in the morning. And I'm here to save you that effort. Sort of. Right, let's start with the man, the myth, the aerodynamic legend, Adrian Newey. New team, new regulations, and a story that honestly sounds like the plot of a sports movie. So Newey joins Aston Martin, and everyone expects him to design a competitive car. Fair enough, the man has more championship-winning designs than most teams have championships. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. Aston Martin didn't get a wind tunnel model of this car running until mid-April. While every other team had been blowing air over their model since January. That's 4 months behind. 4 months in Formula One is an eternity. That's like showing up to an exam having missed half the semester. Why the delay? 2 reasons. First, they were waiting for their brand new wind tunnel to come online. And second, Newey himself didn't officially start until March, so the entire design had a massively compressed timeline. And what did he do with that limited time? He designed the most radical car on the entire grid. George Russell, who drives for Mercedes, a direct rival, saw the AMR 26 emerge from the garage in Barcelona, and his jaw practically hit the floor. He called it spectacular, said it was the most standout design out there. And in news that shocked absolutely no one, Adrian Newey looked at the regulations, looked at what everyone else was doing, and said, "Nah. I'm going to do something completely different." So what makes it so different? Okay, imagine this. On most cars, the suspension is there to do its job. Keep the wheels connected, manage the ride, and stay out of the way of the airflow. Newey looked at the suspension and said, what if I make the suspension itself an aerodynamic weapon? He's positioned the arms and wishbones in ways that other designers literally would not dare try. Bernie Collins, who used to work at Aston Martin, put it perfectly. Newey is forcing the mechanical team into configurations other designers simply wouldn't be happy with. He's making the metal parts of the car do double duty, structure and aerodynamics. It's like asking your garden fence to also be a solar panel, except it works, we think.
And you know what Newey said when Newey said his design aggressive? He goes, and I absolutely love this. I never look at any of my designs as aggressive. I just get on with things and pursue what I feel is the right direction. The man redesigns what a Formula One car can look like and shrugs it off like he's deciding between tea and coffee. But, and this is the big but, the AMR 26 only managed 65 laps at Barcelona. 65. Mercedes did over 500. Lance Stroll got flagged down with a suspected electrical issue. So yeah, it's spectacular. It's radical. It might be genius. But right now, it's also the car with the biggest question mark hanging over it. Can they get it reliable in time? That is the billion-dollar question. All right, let's hop across the paddock to Mercedes, and I need to start with a confession. I have trust issues with Mercedes and unconventional sidepods. I think we all do. Remember 2022? The zeropod? That car that looked like someone had taken a cheese grater to the sides? The car that was supposed to revolutionize F1 and instead spent half the season bouncing down straights like a kangaroo on a trampoline? Yeah, that one. So when I tell you Mercedes has gone unconventional again with the W17, I understand if your first reaction is nervousness. Mine was too. But hear me out, because this time the logic actually makes sense.
So here's what they've done. Most teams designed their sidepods to slope downward toward the rear, like a water slide. Makes intuitive sense, right? Let gravity and airflow do their thing. Mercedes went the other way. Their sidepods rise at the back. It's like building a water slide that goes uphill. Sounds bonkers, but the trick is what happens underneath. By raising the top surface, they've created this enormous tunnel running underneath the sidepod. Think of it like a shopping arcade, open at both ends, covered on top, with loads of space for air to flow through. That tunnel is doing critical work, pulling air away from the floor, redirecting it around the rear wheels, creating the vortices that seal the diffuser. It's counterintuitive, it looks wrong, and there's a genuine chance it's actually genius. Or it's zeropod 2.0. Only one way to find out. Oh, and here's a nerdy detail that I find fascinating. Mercedes and Aston Martin, just those two, are the only teams that mounted their nose to the second element of the front wing instead of the main plane. I know, nose pylons and wing elements, real edge-of-your-seat stuff, but stay with me because this is actually sneaky and clever. By attaching the nose differently, they sacrifice one movable flap, so their wing doesn't transform as dramatically on straights. But in return, they get a shorter, cleaner nose, and Mercedes has carved a secret little channel underneath it that funnels air exactly where they want it. It's the F1 equivalent of a hidden passage in a castle. Nobody sees it, but it changes everything about how the castle works. Now Williams. Oh, Williams. You know, this team has a special place in my heart. 9 Constructors' Championships, 7 Drivers' titles, and then years, decades, really, of being stuck at the back watching other teams play with resources Williams could only dream of. But something is changing under James Vowles, and the FW48 is the proof. Because Williams did something that nobody else on the entire grade attempted. They went with a split suspension, pull rod at the front, push rod at the rear. Every other team picked one or the other. Alpine and Cadillac went double pull rod. Most went double push rod. Williams said, why not both? And here's the thing that made me smile. When they launched the car, they deliberately hid some of the suspension arms. Just didn't show them, covered them up, because they genuinely believed they found something worth protecting. James Vowles hinted the design has echoes of Newey's Aston Martin, not as extreme, but in the same spirit. Now, I'm not going to lie. Seeing Williams hide their homework because they think it's too good for other teams to copy? That's like watching your kid who struggled in school suddenly acing the test and refusing to let anyone see their notes. It's adorable, and honestly, it gives me hope. The Vowles effect is real.
Okay, buckle up for this one because Alpine has done something genuinely bonkers with their rear wing. So the way active Aero works on the rear wing is pretty straightforward for most teams. The movable flap lifts up at the front, like opening a letterbox. Air rushes through, drag drops, car goes faster. 9 teams did some version of this. Alpine looked at it and said, what if we do the exact opposite? Their rear wing hinges at the bottom. The trailing edge, the back part, drops down instead of the front part lifting up. The top of the wing stays completely still. Fans on social media have been calling it the ghost wing because it moves in a way that just looks wrong. People posted videos just completely baffled, watching it activate for the first time. Now, why would Alpine do this? It's not just for the sake of being different. The regulations force the rear wing into a tiny, tiny box. Like, imagine trying to build a bookshelf inside a phone booth. There's almost no room. So Alpine's engineers curved the end plates, the sidewalls of the wing, slightly outward at the top to squeeze more airflow capacity out of that constrained space. And by hinging the wing from the bottom instead of the top, they theoretically get better airflow management at high speed while keeping the wing more stable in corners. Whether it actually works better than the conventional approach, we don't know yet, but you have to respect a team that looks at a problem everyone solved the same way and says, but what if we didn't?
And then there's Audi. Oh, Audi. So picture this. Barcelona's shakedown. Audi rolls out their car. Looks pretty normal. Some interesting details, but nothing that makes your jaw drop. Fast forward to Bahrain pre-season testing a few weeks later. Audi rolls out a completely different car. New sidepods, new inlets, new everything on the flanks. The paddock collectively did a double take. It's like showing up to a date looking normal and then showing up to the second date having completely changed your hairstyle, wardrobe, and personality. Naturally, everyone immediately went, oh, it's the Mercedes zeropod all over again. Because in F1, every radical sidepod concept gets measured against that particular, let's call it a learning experience. But Audi's approach is actually smarter than that comparison suggests. They haven't eliminated the sidepods, they reimagined them. The inlets are now narrower, taller, stretched forward, running vertically up the chassis like air scoops on a fighter jet. And then the bodywork flares out below with this aggressive undercut that channels air exactly where the floor needs it. They also completely changed their front wing activation, switching from one central mechanism to two separate pods. And there's this tiny metal vane on the floor deflector that nobody had seen before, redirecting air upward. For a team that's essentially brand new to Formula One, the ambition is seriously impressive. Whether they can execute is another question entirely, but you can't accuse them of playing it safe.
Right. Quick-fire round. Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari. Let's go! Red Bull's diffuser game is absolutely insane. Most teams have openings in the bodywork to feed air into the diffuser. Think of it like windows in a building to let air circulate. Red Bull looked at that and said, what if we seal the building completely and only let air in through the ventilation system? They're using the brake cooling outlets and nothing else to manage what enters the diffuser. The sidepods are comically small. The whole rear end is so tightly packaged, it looks like someone vacuum sealed it. It's a car with zero wasted space. Every single surface has a purpose. Classic Red Bull. McLaren, and yes, as a McLaren fan, I will try to be objective, but I make no promises. The MCL40 has this beautiful floor solution. Instead of the typical flat setup, they've stacked these aerodynamic elements in a triangle pattern. Big one on top, two squeezed ones below. The whole design is engineered to push air upward and away from the underfloor, like an invisible bouncer at a nightclub, deciding what air gets in and what air gets turned away. The sidepods taper down and tuck in at the back, so two streams of air merge right over the diffuser, pressurizing it from above. It's elegant, it's clever, and if it delivers, I will be absolutely insufferable about it. You've been warned.
And Ferrari, bless them, showed up to Barcelona, and during a rain shower, they thought, you know what would be fun? Let's test our active Aero in the wet. Because of course Ferrari would be the team to go, hey, this brand new wing system that nobody fully understands yet, let's add rain. What could possibly go wrong? Actually, it's kind of brilliant. Nobody else thought to do it. If the active Aero behaves differently in wet conditions, Ferrari now has data that other teams don't. They also went back to push rod rear suspension for the first time since 2011, a 15-year reversal, to free up space around the diffuser. Ferrari, always keeping us on our toes, sometimes by doing something mad, sometimes by doing something genius. Often both at the same time. So here's the big question. With all of these wildly different approaches, who's right? And honestly, I don't know. Nobody does. That's what makes 2026 so exciting. Usually by mid-season of a new regulation era, everyone copies the fastest car and the grid converges. But right now, we have fundamental disagreements about the basic physics of how these cars should work. Should the side pods wash air outward or inward? Should the wing open from the top or the bottom? Should the nose attach to the first element or the second? Should the suspension prioritize mechanical grip or aero performance? These aren't minor details. These are foundational design philosophies, and at least 3 or 4 of them are going to turn out to be wrong.
Here's my hot take. The team that wins 2026 won't be the one with the cleverest individual solution. It'll be the team that best handles the moment when the wings switch from corner mode to straight mode and back again.
Think about what happens in that transition. You're braking into a corner. The wings snap from flat to full downforce. The car suddenly has way more grip. The suspension has to absorb that low change. The floor pressure shifts, the diffuser behavior changes, all in a fraction of a second. Get that transition butter smooth and you'll carry more speed everywhere. Get it wrong and the car will feel like it has two personalities that don't get along. That transition, that's where championships will be won and lost. You know what I love most about all of this? Behind every weird wing shape, every radical sidepod, every hidden suspension arm, there's a room full of people who argued about it for months. Engineers who ran thousands of simulations, designers who woke up at 3 in the morning with an idea and couldn't go back to sleep. Adrian Newey still sketching on paper while everyone else uses computers. A team at Williams who believed in their idea so much they literally hid it from the world. Alpine's aerodynamicists who sat in a meeting and said, "What if we just flip the wing the other way?" These aren't just carbon fiber shapes. They're ideas. They're bets. They're thousands of hours of human creativity shaped into something that goes 200 miles an hour. And that is why I love this sport.
Now, reality check. We are very early in the process. Barcelona was behind closed doors. Bahrain showed us a bit more, and Audi's surprise proved that teams are still holding cards. Pirelli says the cars are already matching 2025 pace, and development hasn't even properly started yet. So if you're the type who makes sweeping predictions based on preseason testing, and I say this with love, you might want to sit this one out. Or don't. Honestly, making wrong predictions and arguing about them on the internet is half the fun of being an F1 fan. Who am I to take that away from you? All right, that is a wrap on today's deep dive into the 2026 Aero arms race. We've got Newey building a miracle car with half the prep time, Mercedes gambling on rising sidepods, again, Williams hiding their homework like it's classified, Alpine literally flipping the script on rear wings, Audi arriving to Bahrain with a car nobody recognized, McLaren doing beautiful things with the floor. Not biased, just correct. Red Bull vacuum sealing their rear end, and Ferrari testing new tech in the rain because they're Ferrari. This season is going to be wild. I have absolutely no idea who got it right, and that is the most exciting sentence I've said in years. Thank you for listening to F1 Burnouts. Until next time, keep the rubber on the track and the downforce where it belongs.